This might be the funniest thing I have ever seen Rolling Stone publish in my life. So obviously it's a hit piece on Trump. We know Rolling Stone, huge bias, even though they might not admit it, huge left bias. They put out this article, every awful thing Trump has promised to do in a second term. Ooh, what awful things does he plan to do? This is funny that they start with this, okay? He will indict Biden and his other political enemies. Who does that sound like? Who was indicted 4 times in 1 year? Biden's political enemy. They're trying to fearmonger that Trump's going to go after Biden and them, but it's okay for Biden and them to go after Trump. Like it's so hypocritical, and it's crazy how there's people that truly cannot see through this. Like how are you that oblivious when it's right in your face? They're really throwing right. That's the first thing they mention in this article. What's next? What's next? So we're starting off good here. He will round up, intern, and deport undocumented immigrants. Well, for one, they shouldn't be here to begin with. So let's look at this. Apprehensions every year, right? So start 2017 is when Trump took over, 310,000, 404. Got a little high in 2019, then dropped down, and then Biden's first year, 1.6 million. His second year, 2.2. Third year, 2 million. I think he's on pace for another 2 million this year. Apprehensions. That's crazy. And then if you look at deportations, this says in 2023, he deported 142,000 of them. So in 2023, when there was 2 million apprehensions at the border, only 142,000 got deported. So what happened with the other 1.9 million? And this doesn't even include the ones that like got away, the gotaways, runaways, whatever they call them, that literally ran and they couldn't find them anymore. It doesn't include them. These are only ones that show up at the border. And we know Biden has flown in himself like over 300,000 to a bunch of cities. So this number is probably low because I don't think this includes that either. So yeah, I don't think mass deportation would be a bad thing. These are a lot of people that are not supposed to be here to begin with. And it's funny too, if you look at this, this is the Office of Homeland Security legit website, the government website, right? Why is it that they show this is aliens removed or returned 1892 to 2019? Some reason they have not updated it since 2019. Why would they not update it for 5 years on how many people they've removed from the country? Does that make sense to anyone else? They haven't updated it in 5 years. All right, so we're all strong here. What other good stuff does Trump plan for us? He will send the military to the border. That might actually stop immigrants from coming through. Sometimes you got to make a big move to deter. And clearly, see, the thing with this is I wouldn't say military is necessarily needed. I would say they just need to let Border Patrol actually do their job. They're basically telling Border Patrol they can't apprehend these people just to let them through. If you actually tell Border Patrol to actually do their job, the military might not be needed. But it might at the start of it since the influx is so high. This is a dumb one. He will invade Mexico. He's going to invade Mexico. Trump was talked out of bombing Mexico to take out drug labs during his first term. I never heard anything about him bombing Mexico. I've heard him say he's going to send in troops to take out cartel members, which I'm assuming he would need approval, from the Mexican government to even do that. So if the Mexican government's approving that, then um, what's the issue? If that's how you need, like, you need to show these cartel members a lesson one way or another. And what's funny too is attacking Mexico, or whatever you like to call it, is something that President Trump has said he wants battle plans drawn for. A source familiar. This is where you know that there's some bullshit in these articles when they say a source familiar or a source familiar with the situation, any kind of wording like that. It's some made up shit that they just want to fear monger. So that's definitely not believable. He will round up the homeless and send National Guard into cities to fight crime. Okay. Trump claimed last year that our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares and surrendered to the homeless, the drug addicted, and the violent and dangerously deranged. He's not wrong. His solution is to ban urban camping and corral the unhoused into tent cities, which will be staffed by doctors, psychiatrists, social workers, and drug rehab specialists. Trump says he will pay for it all with the money the U.S. saves from ending mass unskilled migration. So so right now, homeless people do whatever they want, especially places like Portland, Seattle, San Francisco. They're literally doing drugs right on the street. They're not being stopped. People are moving out of the city. Businesses are moving out of the cities. There's nothing being done about it. So Trump is saying, let's put them all together and give them psychiatrists and social workers and rehab specialists and focus specifically on them so they can be functional members of society again. And Rolling Stone found a way to say that's a bad thing. And what's funny is Trump will crack down on crime by sending the National Guard to American cities. Really. And that's a bad thing. Even though Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, did that. And apparently they're going to stay there all summer in the New York subways to crack down on crime. So I guess it's only bad when Trump does it. When liberals do it, it's okay. It gets glossed over. He will ban abortion nationwide. This is something that Kamala and Joe Biden's Twitter accounts constantly push and is a bunch of BS. So he's saying that Trump has tried to have his cake and eat it too when it comes to reproductive rights, repeatedly bragging about installing the Supreme Court justice to overturn Roe v. Wade. Yeah, he does brag about that. But he has also said that he's going to leave it up to the states. He's going to let the states decide. And that's pretty much what the point of Roe v. Wade was saying that the federal government and the Supreme Court does not have the right to put in a federal law for abortion. So he's saying it's leaving up to the states, which is what the point of overturning Roe v. Wade was. So, and I think, honestly, I think the states, because we're such a diverse country, not only ethnicity-wise, race-wise, but also in thought process, they should be left to the states for a majority of things. Like, people in New York don't have the same values as people in Iowa or people in California or people in Texas. We're all different throughout the whole country. So you got to leave states up when it comes to a lot of issues. So now, obviously, some of us, like, I don't agree with a lot of stuff California does. I'm a conservative. I don't agree with a lot of stuff my own state, Maryland, does because I'm a conservative. But at the end of the day, I choose to live here. So I have to deal with those consequences. So it's one of those things where, like, yeah, the states should be able to decide that. And people choose to live there or not. Obviously, the housing situation now, it's harder to leave. But it's not impossible. So, yeah, this was left up to the states. And there's nothing wrong with that. I even said before he even came out with this, that was the best thing he could do. Like, that's what he should do. Because there's no way, like, passing an abortion ban, one, probably won't happen. Two, doesn't do anything. I think that just does more harm than good. I don't support it, but I don't see how that's different than the government saying before with Roe v. Wade in place. I don't know how that's any different. So what's next? He will bring back the death penalty in a big way. This is one of the ones I really wanted to talk about in this video. So he executed a total of 13 inmates, and it was more towards the end of his term. I don't think he started until 2020. He brought it back. It was the first time since, I think, 2003 it was used. And it could be controversial because you're saying it's inhumane, you're just killing people. But these are people that, in my opinion, don't deserve another chance. They committed extremely horrible crimes that they should never be forgiven for. That's my opinion. And I'm allowed to have that. Some people might think it's too extreme and they're right to have that, but I don't think there's anything wrong. Like, why should we pay our tax dollars for 40 or 50 years for people that do horrible things? Like, so here's a few examples. These are the 13 people. These are their names, what they did. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some are really messed up. So I'm just going to go through it's the really bad ones. So this one, Daniel Lewis Lee, 47 years old, was executed for the 1996 killings of gun dealer William Mueller, his wife Nancy Mueller, and her daughter, 8-year-old daughter, Sarah Powell, which was a part of a plot to steal guns and cash to help establish a whites-only clave. So he was gone. Let's see. This one's really messed up. Wesley Ira Perky. Perky was put to death after a last-minute Supreme Court ruling saying it could proceed despite his attorneys arguing that he was not mentally competent. The 68-year-old had been convicted in 2003 for assaulting and ending a 16-year-old before dismembering, burning, and dumping her body in a pond. Why does that dude deserve to live? Huh? Why should we have to pay for his meals? This dude, a meth kingpin named Dustin Honkin, killed several people, including witnesses, to stop them from testifying against him. This dude, Keith Nelson, executed for the 99 assault and ending of a 10-year-old girl. Another one similar right there, except it was an adult. Like, these are horrible crimes. Why do these people deserve to have like a second chance? And it's funny, like when the media, you can tell what the race of it. So obviously all these people have probably been white, right? Especially this dude, he says the whites only enclave. So most of them have probably been white already, right? So you get to Orlando Hall, the 49-year-old, a black man, add that in there. So that means that all ones are white, right? Was sentenced for the assault, kidnapping, and ending a 16-year-old. Like, this is insane. Why do these people deserve another chance? This dude was being executed for abusing, torturing, and ending his own daughter, who was 2 years old. He ended her by slamming her head against a truck window and dashboard. 2 years old. What's crazy, there's actually a woman on here, one woman. Only woman on federal death row. Convicted for a federal kidnapping resulting in the death of 2007 after a fatal strangling of a pregnant woman, cutting a fetus from her womb and attempting to pass the child off as her own. How mentally ill do you have to be to do that? So that's just a taste of these people that were executed. So, I mean, you get to decide if you think it makes sense or not. To me, I don't feel bad at all. This is funny. He will make stuff more expensive by taxing all imported goods. What have we been dealing with the last 3 or 4 years? Inflation, inflated prices, prices going crazy, everything crazy expensive. So now they're saying that Trump's going to make it worse by tariffs, right? And it's funny because Biden just put his own tariffs a week or two ago. So are they saying Biden's tariffs going to make everything expensive? They're not saying anything bad about Biden. Just Trump. Funny how that works out, right? Next one. He will reevaluate America's participation in NATO. And this is a big, he's never, from what I've understand, never said withdrawing from NATO, anything like that. His biggest thing has always been everyone paying the same share. Every country that joins NATO agrees to a 2% share of their GDP goes straight to NATO. And only, I think, 10 countries actually do that out of the 25 or 30 that are in it. So here's the spending. So this is the GDP. So the percentage of GDP. So Poland has significantly increased their contributions because they're right next to Ukraine and they're worried about Russia. We're paying 3.5% of our GDP when it only needs to be 2%. If we did the 2%, that would save us about $350 billion a year. But for some reason, we're over contributing. So the countries that actually put in their threshold Greece, Estonia, Lithuania, Finland, Romania, Hungary, Latvia, UK, and Slovakia. A lot of those countries you probably didn't even know, one, existed, or two, are in the NATO. Now let's look at countries that aren't. France isn't meeting it. The Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Germany, Czech Republic, Italy, Canada, Spain. These are first world countries that could definitely afford it, and they're choosing not to. And that's because there's no threat if they don't do it. Nobody's telling them not to. They're not kicked out. And Trump wants to reevaluate. He wants people to pay their fair share. We, as Americans, we spend $860 billion a year on NATO. What are we getting out of that? The next closest is Germany at $68 billion. That's nowhere close to it. Like, that's insane. And we actually increased 3.45% to 3.49 from last year, from 2022 to 2023. We've actually put $40 billion more into it. Why? While the UK paid 9% less. Italy paid 5% less. Like, why is that fair? That's not fair to us at all. And that's Trump's whole point. He will roll back all of Biden's climate change stuff. I mean, I don't really have an issue with that. I'm trying to see. Some of his climate stuff's a little ridiculous. Like the whole thing with electric cars, like that's moving too fast. I don't see an issue with that 100%. This one's weird. He will construct freedom cities filled with flying cars. Never heard of that? That sounds neat. Probably a waste of money. So I don't see that happening. But you know, I mean, I guess you never know. He will try to overhaul the education system in the MAGA image. So what is the MAGA image? The MAGA image is vowing to cut funding for any school or program pushing critical race theory, gender ideology, or other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on children. So they're saying that they want gender ideology and inappropriate racial, sexual, and political content on their children. That's what they're saying. And Trump is saying, no, they don't need that. They're children. They need to learn the basics. They don't need to learn all that stuff. They don't need to learn that white kids are victims or white kids are bad because they're white and all based on their race. It's like such like Attack on Titan stuff. Like it's with the Eldians. It's crazy. He will do what he can to flood the nation with guns. I don't see him really doing much with that. I mean, there's not much he can really do. He could ease background checks, I guess, but other than that, I don't really see him doing much with that. He will torch the First Amendment by going after non-MAGA media. This is funny. So this says Trump has long railed against unflattering media coverage, whether come by way of CNN, MSNBC, or other fake news outlets, or from any of his many propaganda arms, including Fox News. He's teased real retribution against the former category, however, raising concerns over the damage of another term could do to the First Amendment. So there is literally nothing he could really actually do to them because they're independent companies. Clearly, they're 100% biased. They don't even try to hide their bias, and they lie all the time. And Fox News does too. I'm not a full supporter of Fox News. These big media companies lie all the time to get clicks. They have these big misleading headlines, and then their article will have nothing to do with their headlines. And then Trump's biggest issue is that it's just all propaganda for the left. And he's just, I don't see him doing anything with that. And what's interesting is if we all know leftist media is liberal, like they are heavy Democrats, right? So these are media owners or big media personnel that donate to Democrats. So obviously George Soros, huge one, major donor to Wikipedia. We all know how left they've gotten. Lauren Powell, she owns The Atlantic, which a huge leftist media company. Bob Iger, chairman of Disney. We know how Disney's going the last 2 years. Zaslav, who led the merger with CNN and Discovery. James Murdoch, who left the family Fox News business. This dude, NPR board of directors. the COO of Facebook, all Democrats, owner of Vox and New York Magazine, both liberal, owner of Daily Beast, liberal, editor of Vogue, board member of Univision. Now there's a Republican. Not really that many. We have Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox News, Newsmax owner, Daily Callers, the guy. I don't know who this dude, billionaire Paul Singer. I don't know who that is. Uh, owner of Business Insider. See, I don't even know what a lot of these companies are. What's Gray Television? Owner of the Washington Examiner, investor in the Daily Wire. So they're heavily Democrat donors. Trump's not going to do anything in our media. It's all fear mongering. They're saying like Trump's going to take away the First Amendment, even though the left literally censored people with different opinions for years when it came to COVID, when it came to the laptop, when it came to the diary. They literally censored people, and they still do to this day. I saw a post the other day that was taken down on Instagram because of misinformation. Like they do it all the time. He will legally delegitimize trans Americans. And what they mean by that is he's going to restore the ban on trans Americans serving in the military, which I believe he did try, but I think it got changed to if you're already had the surgery. And it's also to join the military, you need to be mentally tough. You need to go through a lot of mental tests. If you have, say, like schizophrenia, you can't join the military. If you even have something small like asthma, you can't join the military. Any kind of like, I guess, defect, you would say, you can't join the military. You need to be the toughest possible. So a big thing is they don't allow people that have gender dysphoria, because gender dysphoria is a mental disorder. You could say what you want about trans people. Gender dysphoria is legit a mental disorder and requires medical treatment, requires therapy. So you can't have someone like that on the battlefield. And that was the whole point of this. And I don't see anything I really don't see anything. And what's funny too is people are freaking out about this, all banning trans Americans, right? They were banned in the military up until June 2016. The first 7 years of Obama's term, first 7 years of his term, they were not allowed to be in the military. That was a new thing. And it was supposed to take effect July 1st, 2017. That's crazy. So they weren't even allowed until like the first, few months into Trump's term. And they're going to get on Trump for that. Obama didn't support it either. He will pardon the January 6th rioters. Well, I mean, a lot of them are literally in prison for walking. So I have no issue with that. Now, you could make the argument if people are breaking windows, assaulting officers, yeah, they probably should at least be in jail for a little bit of time if you're assaulting officers. But if you're one of those people that was let in by the police and you're just walking around, you should not be rotting in a cell right now. That's ridiculous. He will gut the federal government and take unprecedented control of what's left. So this is a big thing that I really support when it came to Vivek Ramaswamy. When it comes to spending, right? They always talk about we need to get more tax money for the spending. They never talk about cutting spending so they can have a surplus, so they can bring down our debt. It's always, let's find new ways to tax people. Let's tax people more. And it's never, let's cut our spending with the government. So total revenue for 2023, they brought in $4.47 trillion in tax money. 4.47. But they spent 6.16 trillion. That's insane. So until you cut that spending, this is never going to get under control. That is an insane proportion. So yeah, there's something that needs to be done there. So that's the Rolling Stone's whole article. That's their hit piece, that they're trying to make Trump look bad. And since people aren't going to fact check this stuff, they're I mean, it probably works for some people. But what do you guys think about this Rolling Stones article, and what do you think about all of Trump's ideas that the Rolling Stones says he has for his second term? Because obviously a lot of them are not bad. A lot of them are actually good. They try to paint a bad picture on him, but we all lived through Trump's 4 years, and we have lived through Biden's almost 4 years. We know the different quality of living in both situations. So, yeah, I would say I have no problem with everything Trump's doing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe to all my channels below, and I'll see you next time.